Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3899 AN. Today's date is May 6th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Marco Rubio confirms energy is being set free. Right on schedule. Watch what happens next. Now, here's what your financial advisors won't tell you. By the time the news tells you to buy gold, it's too late. You're waiting. I get it. Everybody's waiting. Waiting to see if the ceasefire holds, waiting to see if the Strait of Hormuz reopens, waiting to see what happens next. But gold isn't waiting for you. It moves on fear, on instability, on the unknown, and it moves faster than you can react. So while you're waiting for certainty, the rest of the world is planning for what comes next. You can wait or you can prepare. You can't do both. Remember, the best time to put on a seatbelt is before the accident, not after. If you're ready to act, reach out to Noble Gold Investments. They help Americans protect their savings with physical gold and silver shipped to your door or held in a tax-advantage IRA. No taxes, no penalties to roll over a 401k or existing IRA. Visit X22Gold.com for your free investor kit. 5 minutes today could protect decades of seconds. That is X22Gold.com. Don't be the one still waiting, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, slowly but surely they're losing control of their energy. Remember, everything has been controlled from the Middle East. They can set the price. So if they wanted it to be $6 a gallon, it would be $6 a gallon. If they wanted it to be $8 a gallon, it would be $8 a gallon. And Marco Rubio confirms that energy now is being set free. Remember, if we're going to head down the path and removing the central bank system, we need to remove everything that they put into place to keep control. And that's what Trump and the Patriots are doing right now. Slowly but surely, he's transitioning the world that we know, the economy that the central bankers created. He's creating a new system and slowly but surely transitioning us into that new system. But what he needs to do across the globe, he needs to remove the structure that they put into place. So this way, when we move into a decentralized system from a centralized system, the system can operate. Because once again, if we have a parallel economic system and Trump just removes the Federal Reserve in this country and we still have the central bank across the world controlling everything else, how does that work in our benefit? It doesn't. Actually, they would end up destroying the system that he's creating. This is why he went out to Venezuela. This is why he went out to the Middle East. This is why he's doing all of these things. And yes, there's other agendas associated with all of this. But again, Marco Rubio confirms this is exactly what's happening. And everything is right on schedule. You don't think Trump knew to do this, that fuel prices were going to go up? Why do you think he brought them as far down as he possibly could until he went into Iran? Because he knew that prices were going to go up. Can you imagine if we started at the point where he inherited the gas prices and then went up from there? So he brought him down, knew we had to go into Iran. He knew we had to dismantle the entire system. And then after everything's all said and done, he knew the prices were going to drop like a rock. And that is exactly what's going to happen. And think about what people are going to see. The fake news that he's and everyone else continually complaining about high energy. When energy drops off, everyone's going to be looking at Trump saying, you did it. You were able to bring the energy costs way, way down. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see the fuel prices below $2 a gallon. Now, think about that. Because again, as we approach the midterms, how are the D's going to combat this? They're going to say, oh, it wasn't Trump who did this? I mean, he's the one who made the fuel prices go up. So they're going to say, oh, he didn't make them come down? Of course he did. They're going to have a very difficult time in all of this. And every step of the way, Trump is going to be removing other barriers. And wait until you see what happens next, because he is not finished as of yet, because he's removing the entire structure that they put into place. Remember NAFTA, then he made the USMCA. That is coming next. And you can see Canada, they're having a very difficult time. Actually, those nations with the puppet leaders who are taking instructions from the central bankers, they're panicking right now because everything that they had in place is being dismantled right in front of their eyes. And look what just happened. Like we said before, Honda has just canceled the EV plant in Canada. Isn't that interesting? So Toyota Inc. informed the Canadian trade delegation that if the USMCA was dissolved, the most important auto manufacturing operation they have in the country would end. Toyota was being respectful and brutally honest with the Canadians, and that was last year. Almost at the same time, Honda decided to put a pause on the plan to build the EVs in Ontario. That was 2025 notice, pending additional review. Today, according to the Nikkei, Honda has now completed that review and canceled the plan. Honda will not build EVs in Canada. Asahi Kasei, the Japanese material supplier that makes the battery separators, a core component used in lithium-ion batteries, will likely make a similar announcement very, very soon. The decision is in response to declining EV sales in combination with current U.S.-Canada trade friction. Without guaranteed access to the U.S. markets, it makes no sense to invest in Canada. And think about it, there's a huge amount of friction. And once again, you can see Trump is putting a lot of pressure on Canada and Mexico because he wants the USMCA removed. He's waiting for them to violate it, and once they do, he's going to get rid of it. And we can see we're now moving down this path. So if they're not going to make it out in Canada, why don't they just make their cars here in the United States if they're going to make any EV cars? And most likely that's what they'll end up doing in the end. Now, the other thing that we could see is that Trump and team, they were removing all the scammers that have been on the SNAP program. Because again, a lot of these people, they didn't need it. A lot of these people were abusing the system. And this is not the only program that we see this type of fraud. Peter Sayong says, USDA crackdown throws 4.3 million scammers and freeloaders off food stamps. The bad news is there's another 30 million scammers and federal and freeloaders munching on your paycheck. Wall Street Maverick responded and says, fraud checks and work requirements are a good start. But when 70% of SNAP recipients are obese and thousands are driving luxury cars like Mercedes and BMW, maybe we should scrap the whole thing. And that's absolutely true. But think about it. The deep state players, they love using these programs. First of all, it keeps people dependent on the government. Second of all, it makes these people allegiant to them. Third of all, they use it to launder the money through these systems. Now Trump and team, they're basically shutting it all down. Step by step, everything's going to be shut down in the end. And all these programs that people have grown up with, you're going to start to realize that these programs, they were just one gigantic money laundering fraud operation. Yes, maybe they helped a couple of people, but again, there has to be a time span where people must wean themselves off the system. They can't stay on the system 20, 30 years. It makes no sense whatsoever. Now, why would people have to stay on the system that long? Well, when the central bank system shuts down all the jobs, transfers the jobs overseas, and it gets harder and harder to make ends meet, what do you have to do? You have to basically help the people out by giving them the money. So how do you get the money? Well, the government borrows from the central bank. You give that money to those people. The rest of the country then has to pay for that money. So basically, you're looking at socialism. That's what you're looking at right there. And every step of the way, you could see Trump and team, what are they doing? They're shutting it all down. And yes, people are going to scream. People are going to yell. But again, instead of... Now, here's what your financial advisors won't tell you. By the time the news tells you to buy gold, it's too late. You're waiting. I get it. Everybody's waiting. Waiting to see if the ceasefire holds. Waiting to see if the Strait of Hormuz reopens. Waiting to see what happens next. But gold isn't waiting for you. It moves on fear, on instability, on the unknown, and it moves faster than you can react. So while you're waiting for certainty, the rest of the world is planning for what comes next. You can wait or you can prepare. You can't do both. Remember, the best time to put on a seatbelt is before the accident, not after. If you're ready to act, reach out to Noble Gold Investments. They help Americans protect their savings with physical gold and silver shipped to your door or held in a tax-advantage IRA. No taxes, no penalties to roll over a 401k or existing IRA. Visit X22Gold.com for your free investor kit. 5 minutes today could protect decades of seconds. That is X22Gold.com. Don't be the one still waiting, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Taking the government's money, Trump is giving them the opportunity to get a job. Now, that's their choice. Do you want a job? Jobs will be plentiful. You'll be able to get a job. You'll be able to support your family. You'll be proud in doing that. And again, we had the system the way it is today because the central bank system basically destroys the job market. But think about what Trump has been doing right now. He's been building the foundation. It's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. The building's starting to go up. And what are we seeing? We're starting to see a lot more jobs that are being added to the system. And you're going to see a lot more happen as time goes on. ADP employment report, which shows the U.S. economy added 109,000 jobs in April. This is the 10th straight month of job additions and the strongest monthly addition since January of 2025. Under the hood, goods producing jobs rose 15,000, while service providing jobs rose around 94,000. Small and large employers are hiring, but we're seeing softness in the middle. Large companies have resources to deploy, and small ones are the most nimble. Both important advantages in a complex labor market. And when you start to look at it, you can see small businesses added about 43,000 jobs. Businesses between 20 and 49 employees, 22,000. Mid-size, between 50 and 249 employees, 5,000 jobs. We can see those companies between 250 and 499, down 3,000. And large companies, over 500 people, added about 42,000. When you break it down in regards to category, you can see natural resources mining up 3,000 jobs, construction up 10,000 jobs, manufacturing up 2,000 jobs, trade, transportation, and utility up 25,000 jobs, information up 4,000, financial activities up 9,000, education and health services up 61,000, leisure and hospitality up 4,000. The only two areas that are down are professional and business services, down 8,000, and other services down 1,000. So we could see jobs now are being created in this country, and it's going to get better and better as time goes on. Because think about what Trump and the Patriots are doing. They're bringing the jobs back. And again, if you're creating private sector jobs, it takes a little while to build the foundation for the private sector jobs compared to the government jobs, which we know that these government jobs, they pretty much don't produce anything. And to pay these people, where does the money come from? Oh, that's right. They have to borrow from the central bank once again. So these are all fake jobs. It's an illusion that they've been pushing on the entire country. And now Trump is breaking that illusion. And a lot of people for a very long time didn't realize that the job numbers were illusionary. They thought, wow, look at all these jobs. Everyone's fully employed. But again, if you're borrowing money to keep someone employed, that's not a real job because somebody's got to pay for it somehow, somewhere. I mean, can you imagine if you just kept borrowing to pay your bills? I'm going to borrow another $10,000 to pay my electric, my gas. I'm going to borrow more money to pay off my car. I'm going to keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. Is that any way to live? Can you live? No, you can't. So you actually have to go out and you actually have to produce. And you have to produce for the company. The company needs to make money. Then the company will reward you with a paycheck. Use that paycheck to pay your bills. It's not a loan, you're earning it. So basically, we shouldn't have to borrow to pay the employees. And this is why Trump is now removing this because, again, he's shifting everything to the private sector. And it takes a little bit more time to shift everything to the private sector. Now, like we said from the very, very beginning, Secretary Marco Rubio, he just pretty much confirmed that one of the reasons we're out in Iran is to decentralize the oil system. And he says, and Eric already put this out, he says they could make our gas $8 a gallon and we wouldn't be able to do a thing about it. A nuclear-armed Iran could do whatever the hell they want with the Straits, and there's nothing anyone would be able to do about it. And that's one of the many reasons, apart from the massive loss of life and nuclear strike, why Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. I mean, so this is an example of if they had a nuclear weapon. They close the Straits and they would tell the world, what are you going to do about it? We have a nuclear weapon. We can attack you with it. That's the world none of us want to leave behind. It won't happen under this president's watch, but some future president, future Americans will have to deal with this. So just one more example why these guys can never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And he's absolutely correct. Plus, they've been holding the oil market hostage. This is their control mechanism. And it's not just Iran. It's not just that country. It's the central bankers, the deep state players. Believe me, if the world wanted to shut this down, they would have done it. The reason why it was never done is because those individuals that are in charge, the central bankers, the deep state players, they wanted the system controlled and they allowed it to be controlled. They actually made it so it would be controlled. They didn't want oil coming from Venezuela, oil coming from the United States, oil coming from Russia, free oil coming from the Middle Eastern states. Remember, they built their system on control. They centralized everything. And Trump and team, they are now decentralizing all this. Trump, he knew that the prices were going to go up. He knew that the fear was going to push prices up. He also knows once everything's all said and done, which I do believe is going to happen very, very soon, he also knows that the prices are going to come way, way down because the fear is going to be gone. Iran will no longer control the oil system in that region. Plus, the other countries, the Arab nations, are going to leave OPEC and they will compete against each other. And when you have competition, what happens? Oil prices start to come down. And it's not just the Middle Eastern countries. We're also talking about Russia. We're also talking about the United States. We're also talking about Venezuela. Actually, we're also talking about Canada. So when you have all this oil and all the oils competing against each other, and everyone wants to sell their oil for the cheapest price, what are you going to see? You're going to see that oil is going to go down, which means gas prices are going to go way, way down. Remember, we've been living in this artificial world that this is normal for the gas prices. This is what they're supposed to be. No, this is what they told you it's supposed to be because we didn't have free open markets. We didn't have competition. Remember, the central bank centralizes and controls everything. And now everything is about to change. And with the news of maybe a peace deal, don't know if it's going to happen right now, but Trump is leaning towards that, hey, maybe we do have something. Maybe they're agreeing to everything that we want. But just from that news, look what happened. Oil prices dropped. Gold went up. Bitcoin is going up. And again, this was just on the news. So think about what's going to happen when we actually finalize the peace deal. Do you think gold is going to go up much more? Absolutely. Do you think the oil price is going to go way, way down? Absolutely. Do you think the market is going to skyrocket? Absolutely. So yes, this is an indicator letting you know in which direction that all of this is going to go. Now, once again, if there isn't a deal, you're going to see the reverse happen. And Trump might have to put a little bit more pressure on the central bank deep state players, the proxy army of Iran. You have to remember, the deep state central bank system, they don't want to give up this control because they're losing control everywhere they look. They already lost control with Venezuela. They lost control with the Panama Canal. And yes, China is involved in all of this. Remember, they're the silent deep state players in the background that aren't going to say, hey, we're the ones doing all of this. Because again, everything was supposed to be shifted into China. Manufacturing, rare earth mineral mining, battery production, car production, you name it. It was supposed to be based out of China. This is why Europe was giving up everything. And you could see that Trump has been dismantling that system, and he's also going after the central bank. So once again, you can see he has to do all of this so he can actually usher in the new system. Because again, you have to remove the central bank's control. And you have to remember, yes, it started in this country a long time ago, back in 1913, but it has grown and it's gotten bigger. And the tentacles have reached all different countries. They've created their organizations. They have control over trade with the World Trade Organization. They have control over the banking system with the World Bank and the IMF and the BIZ. And they took control over everything. And this is what he's fighting against, to remove all this. So yes, he's going to have to do this across the globe. And he's going to have to break their rules. He's going to have to break the globalist system. He's going to have to reroute trade. He's going to have to make deals with other countries. And he's going to have to use tariffs to do all of this. He's going to have to set the oil market free so it can compete and energy comes way down. Because if we're going to have a prosperous country, we're going to enter the golden age, and we're going to manufacture like nobody has ever seen in their lifetime, he has to do all of these things because they put these control mechanisms in place to stop any person that tries to go up against them. And Trump, every step of the way, is doing it. And you're going to see a lot more of this. Sometimes it will look kind of strange. Sometimes it'll be like, why is he doing this? Makes no sense. Why are oil prices going up? Why is the market fluctuating? Why is gold going down? Now it's going up. What? Because once again, he's transitioning the country. He's removing everything that they put into place. And he's showing you the true nature of the economic system. He's showing you the control mechanisms. He's showing you what they have done. And people now are going to see all this play out as time goes on. And as he removes these blockages, you're going to see the economy all of a sudden spring to action. You're going to see it thrive. And you're going to see it happen pretty quickly. It's not going to take that long. Because again, when you remove the control mechanisms and you set it free and you allow the economy to do what it's supposed to be doing, all of a sudden you see incredible things happen. And that's why you have to watch what comes next, because it's going to be absolutely incredible. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.